Hello, I am Dr. Kulkarni, and this presentation deals with power analysis. Power analysis is an important step in the statistical analysis. Just as finding the probability value is an important step in any statistical analysis, similarly, the power analysis is another important step in statistical analysis. Calculation of the probability in statistical testing is seen quite often. If you see the published literature, you will find the calculation of probability in most of the publications. But the power analysis is not seen in the publications that often. And this presentation deals with an overview of power analysis and MS Excel based application for the calculation of the power analysis in variety of situations. Suppose you have conducted a statistical test of significance. Your research question could be related to the difference in the means. Your research question could be related to difference in proportions. It could be related to association between two variables, or it could be correlation between two variables. Whatever it may be, but you have applied a statistical test of significance, and depending on the chosen level of the critical value of the probability, you declare the result either as statistically significant or you declare it as statistically not significant. Now, if the result is declared as statistically significant, the power analysis is not required at all, because power analysis is required to be done when the result of the statistical analysis shows that it is statistically not significant. So power analysis is nothing but determining the power of the test when we find the difference as statistically not significant. Just as we declare or set the level of probability before application of the statistical test, the set level of probability is usually 0.05 or 5%, usually in most of the cases. Similarly, in the power analysis, we have to set the critical value of the power of the statistical test, and mostly it is 80% or 0.8. This is set before application of the power analysis. Suppose we declare it as, or we set it at the level of 80%. Many people set it as 90%, but suppose we set it as 80% or 0.8. And after doing the power analysis, we find that the power of the test is equal to or more than the critical value, that is 80%. Then we conclude that there is no type 2 error in this example, or in this example wherein we have applied the statistical test of significance, there was no type 2 error. So the conclusion that the result was statistically not significant is accepted as it is. However, if on power analysis you find that the power of the statistical test was less than the critical value, that is 80% in most of the cases, they declare at that situation that the type 2 error has occurred if it is less than the critical value. And this conclusion, not significant, remains inconclusive. So the third one is, here there are therefore three possibilities. One is significant, another is not significant. In not significant, it could be power of the test is equal to or more than critical value, where we accept that it is not significant. But under this situation, the significance level or the result of the test as not significant remains inconclusive. We give an example. We discuss an example. You have undertaken a cross-sectional study for prevalence of diabetes in a district. So you have calculated the sample size for calculating the prevalence of diabetes in the district, and you conduct the survey, and you then find out the prevalence of diabetes, whatever it is, 5%, 4% in the given age group. Say it is in the age group of say 45 plus. So we select the requisite number of the persons in that age group, the requisite number and those who are eligible, and we find out the prevalence of diabetes in those individuals, whatever it is, say it is 4% or 5%, whatever it is. So this was the primary objective for which the sample size was determined or advised by the statistician. As a part of further analysis, you try to find out the difference in the gender-wise prevalence. You make the subgroup in the sample, gender-wise subgroups, occupation-wise subgroup, age-wise subgroups, and you try to find out what is the prevalence of diabetes in the gender-wise prevalence. So gender-wise we take as one of the examples. We made many subgroups depending on the gender, depending on the age, depending on the residence, and so on and so forth. But let us take this one example of gender-wise prevalence. And then you apply the statistical test of significance on gender-wise prevalence, and you find the statistical test declares that it is not significant. This will not be a correct conclusion unless you apply the power of the statistical test in this case. So here you must have do the power analysis and set the level of the power analysis. If the set level is 80% and after applying the power analysis you find that the power of the statistical test is equal to or more than 80%, then the type 2 error has not occurred. Because the type 2 error has not occurred, we declare this conclusion that it was statistically not significant. This conclusion at this step we accept because the power of the test was equal to or more than 80%. However, if the power of the test is less than 80%, then the type 2 error has occurred. We see that the type 2 error has occurred in this case, and therefore this conclusion that the gender-wise prevalence was statistically not significant is not accepted in toto. That further we say that further studies are required in this aspect, and the conclusion that it was not significant is not accepted in toto, but we say that more studies are required in this aspect. So in conclusion, we may say that the power analysis must be done whenever the statistical analysis by test of significance shows the result as statistically not significant. This is to avoid blindly accepting the null hypothesis without finding the probability of type 2 error. And power analysis helps us in determining the probability of type 2 error. So power analysis is nothing, therefore, but to finding the power of the test and thereby finding the probability of type 2 error. Herein, I would like to demonstrate you or introduce you to an MS Excel based application wherein the power analysis can be done for common study designs, common situations with us. What you have to do is to note down this address, web address, and go to your browser and enter or copy paste this address which is given over here on the web address and click, and on clicking it you will be taken to a page which would look something like this. So a file will be shown over here and you will have to download this. You will have to download this on your computer at the desired address, which mostly we download on desktop. So you download it at the desired place in your computer. That you can do by clicking this button. This button is for download. This tab is for downloading this particular file to your computer. Now, having downloaded this, you will find something like this. You may find some or the other file open, because this is the collection of the sheets and this is the open sheet over here. You will not be able to do anything with, you may not be able to do anything with this as such, because the editing may not be enabled. So this may be an editing disabled file. So you have to enable editing. So if you have to do anything with this file, you will have to enable editing tab. So this is the tab that you will be finding where it is written enable editing. You click over there and the editing will be enabled. So now you go to the editing enabled file, which you will have downloaded and editing has been enabled by you. So this is a file which is editing enabled file, and this is an example of that we have discussed about the diabetes. You can enter any value the values, desired values in the yellow cells only. If you try to enter in any other cell, an error message, something like this occurs, that the cell or the chart you are trying to change is on protected sheet. To make the change, unprotect the sheet. So you don't unprotect the sheet, but you have to enter the values in this cell only. So in that example of diabetes, suppose NA is the, and we have used this sheet. How we will go to this sheet, that I will explain later on. But let me explain the example of calculating the power in this case. So NA is the sample size in group A. So what was the sample size? The number of males in your group, that has been entered over here. And the number of females has been entered over here. And this is the male-female ratio over here. The males are more in the sample. That's why this ratio has cropped up over here. So here you will have to enter what was the proportion of diabetes you found. Suppose it was 7%. In the surveyed sample, you found it as 7%. And in females, B is the females. So what was the proportion of diabetes in the females? It was 5%. So it is equivalent of 0.05.5. So 5.5 was the percentage. So converted into out of 1, it becomes 0.055. And the tails of the hypothesis in this case, our hypothesis in this case is that in the males the prevalence of diabetes is more as compared to female. That was the hypothesis in the statistical test of significance you applied, and therefore it is one-tailed hypothesis. And here is the power of the test that has been calculated by this statistical application, or this MS Excel based application. So it is 61.53. And we had decided at the outset that if it is less than 80%, we will say that type 2 error has occurred. So here it is quite less than 80%. It is out of 1. So the power of the test converted into percentage will be 61.53%. So it is quite less than the desired level of 80 or more, and that's why we conclude that we probably have committed a type 2 error. That is, we have accepted a false null hypothesis in this case. That conclusion we can draw, that we have accepted, because the statistical test has said that this is statistically not significant. So we have accepted the null hypothesis. So in this case, the error that has occurred over here is type 2 error, that we have probably accepted a false null hypothesis in this case. So we do not accept the conclusion that this difference is statistically not significant, but we say that this needs further investigation. So this aspect of male and female difference requires further elaboration, further studies, and we don't accept that there is no difference. We neither accept that nor we reject the null hypothesis. So we keep it inconclusive, and we say that more studies are required over here. If this would have been 80%, then we would have said yes, because we have not committed type 2 error. The null hypothesis acceptance over here would be justified in our case. So that is how you apply this power of the test with the application, with this particular MS based application, and reach a conclusion. Now I have to tell you as to how you select the sheet over here, because there are many sheets, P1, P2, P3, P4, something like this, M1, M2, M3, M4, something like this. These sheets are over here. So what you have to go is, you have to go to the sheet which is titled as index. So you have to find out over here. So this is the button which you go on this direction, and if you go on this left direction, you have to press this button. So index comes. So you press this index file. So you find the index of all these files. What is there in all these files? Sheets P1, P2, P3, and P4, and what is there? What are the contents? So what you have to do is, you have to first of all find out what is your variable. So your variable in the example of diabetes was proportion. So proportion, so any one of these files would be helpful to you. And then you have to find out what was your study type. Your study type was a cross-sectional analytical type. So either of this one or this one will be helpful to you. But this is for equality in two groups, and this is regarding the odds ratio. So this will not be helpful for you, because this is related to case control study. So this will not be helpful to you. So therefore, this will be helpful to you, and that's why we had gone to sheet number P4. We had gone to this sheet number P4. Let me explain you the further use of this. That if the variable is proportion, then the sheets are named P1, P2, P3, P4, P5, something like this. But if your variable is mean, then the sheet numbers are M1, M2, M3 to M8. So from the proportions, you can go to sheets numbers that starts from P, and if your variable is mean, you go to the sheets title M1, which the name of the sheet starts from M. Let me give you another example over here. Let us say our study from the index file, we see that our study is before after study. The study is before after, and the variable is mean, and the number of the groups is 2. So comparing means of two matched samples. So this is a before after type of study. So we go to sheet number M7. So here is the sheet number M7. So this is a before after study, and the investigator has investigated 30 individuals. 30 individuals, the hemoglobin before starting the study was measured. So this was the mean of the first of the matched means. So 9 was the hemoglobin level and 30 individuals. Then an hematinic was given, say for 3 months or 6 months, and then the hemoglobin level was measured afterwards. And this is the mean of the hemoglobin after it was measured. Then the next thing you have to enter, you cannot enter this 0.6, the value corresponding to 0.6, because this will be automatically calculated by the program or the application. And then you have to enter the standard deviation. It was say 1.5 standard deviation of the differences of the matched value. So whatever differences between the before after were found in each of the 30 individual, the standard deviation of that was say 1.5. The alpha or type 1 error was fixed for the statistical test, by which you have declared this as not significant. Because this is declared as not significant, we are now doing power analysis, and the tails is 1, because our hypothesis is that hemoglobin has increased after giving the hematinics. So therefore the tails is 1 tail test, and the Z corresponding to the alpha value has been calculated over here, and the power of the test in this case is what, say 0.775, that is 70.75 is the power of the test, which is far less than the cutoff point of 0.8 or 80%. So if the conclusion is drawn over here that this difference 9 and 9.6 is statistically not significant, we will say that it is inconclusive because we have committed type 2 error in this case. Type 2 error, what was the level, the extent of the type 2 error in this case? It was around 30%. 30% was the type 2 error likely committed. So that's why we say that this conclusion that this difference is statistically not significant is inconclusive. Maybe if you do study in say additional number of individuals, say if it is 35, then the power of the test increases from 75 to 76%. If you increase to 40, then the power of the test is 0.812. That means 81%. And now this is acceptable level, and here there is no likelihood of type 2 error. So if you would have conducted the study on 40 individuals and found the difference as 9 and 9.6, then if you would have said that the difference is statistically not significant, then the result would have been acceptable. Then we would have said yes, the difference is not significant, and hence that hematinic is not useful in increasing the hemoglobin level of the individuals, because here then we have not committed the type 2 error. So friends, one advantage of this Excel based application is that you get to know the formula that is used for the calculation of the power of the test. Like for example, in this sheet, which deals with the power of the test in two samples, two proportions, superiority and non-superiority hypothesis, the formula is given over here. So the formula with which the power of the test has been calculated is given over here. Second thing is, this is the reference from where the formula has been taken. So whenever you publish your work of this power analysis, you can always quote this formula with which the power of the test was calculated by you, and the source from where you have borrowed this formula. The second advantage of this is that the results of the calculations have been validated. This is the validation chart over here. This is the validation chart over here, and the results have been validated, that the results that are obtained with this MS based application and the results that have been obtained with this particular formula at this particular source have been validated. That, for example, in this case, if this is the combination of the inputs in the yellow cells, this is the combination of yellow. With the help of this MS Excel software, this is the power of the test that is calculated, and this is the power of the test calculated with this particular formula and at this particular source. So there is not much of a difference, and whatever difference has occurred because the calculations over here involve some rounding off, and that's why the difference has occurred. You can go to any formula and you will see such validation. You will see such source of the formula and the formula that has been used in the calculation. So you can, whenever you are referring to your power analysis in your report of research, you can quote this formula and you can quote this source in your original article. So, ladies and gentlemen, here I stop with the presentation. If you have got any queries, if you have got any problems with this application, you can contact me at this email address, drkulkarni@gmail.com. It is possible that you may not be, or there will be very difficulties in downloading this MS Excel sheet to you. So in that event also, you can write to me on this email ID. So I thank you very much, and with this I conclude this session, and goodbye.